Hey there, my name is Jeff Harvick, and I am the orchestra director at McKinney High School. And here in McKinney ISD, we've been back in person and online at the same time for about 2 weeks. And so people have approached me about what that looks like and how we're making it work the best we can. So I wanted to make this video to show you what that looks like here at McKinney High School in the orchestra. Before I do that, I do want to say a quick disclaimer that what I'm going to show is a lot and something that I've been working on for a long time, so it would be a lot to implement all at once, but hopefully that it can give you some ideas of a couple things that you might want to try. The goal of this setup for me was for the students who are learning from home to have a physical presence here in our classroom and feel like they are a part of our rehearsals every day, and for the students who are in person to be able to engage with them, and neither group feels like they are being neglected and that they're both a equal part in what we're doing. What I'm going to show you is not the only way to do that, but that was kind of the guiding force in all of the decisions I made for how I set this up. So without further delay, I'll go ahead and show you around. Save your bow first and go. 4 seconds. Say, dig in. This setup has 4 main parts. Basically, it's the video in that the students see, the video out, so the students' video showing up in our room, our audio in from our rehearsal and from my voice, and the audio out from the students at home into the rehearsal space. So you can think about each of those 4 things separately and choose what you want to implement, all 4 or 1 or 2 of them or none of them. But I hope this is helpful. So here we go. This is the computer we run all of our Zoom meetings off of. This iMac is our classroom computer, and you want to use the most powerful computer that you can. And if it's a laptop, then that's okay, but you might have some challenges and have to kind of pick and choose what is most important to you, because it might not be able to handle everything that I'm going to show. The first thing that I'm going to show you is the audio, how I get the audio and the sound from our rehearsal into the Zoom meeting and out to the students at home. We luckily already had a pair of pretty decent condenser mics, so that's what is on those 2 stands right there on top of those bass lockers, and they pick up the sound from our rehearsal, whether it's our metronome or a tuning note or the students playing in class, and that gets sent to the Zoom meeting. During class, I also wear this guy. This is a little lapel mic that I actually just clip onto my mask, and it connects wirelessly to transmit the sound of my voice, or an instrument if I'm holding an instrument and playing. That works really well for that too. All of those microphones connect to this guy. This is a audio interface, and it is basically just a box that you can plug a bunch of microphones into, and then it connects to your computer via USB, so that any computer software can hear those microphones. So here are the 2 room mics that were up on top of those bass lockers, and then this is the wireless receiver. It just stays plugged into power all the time. It has a little battery in it, but I just keep it plugged in all the time. Wireless receiver for the lapel mics, and here's another one for another teacher, so they can each have one and don't need to share. And So if you know someone that might want to use this, we are hiring for an assistant director in McKinney ISD. So have them reach out to me. Anyway, hope you don't mind the shameless plug. This audio interface is from a company called Focusrite, and this is the Focusrite Scarlett 18i8, I think. But I'll have a link to that. And I've used it for all sorts of stuff, but it's coming in handy for this. The next thing I want to talk about is getting sound from the Zoom meeting out into your room. That will look different for each person's setup, and I imagine most of us have a sound system of some sort or a speaker of some sort in our room. But what I chose to do is pretty straightforward. I just have a little headphone jack on the back of this guy and run it to our soundboard that goes to our speakers. So that's how the students at home, I can hear them if they have a question and then they want to ask that out loud, or I ask them to play something one at a time or whatever. So they have a presence in our class. I think it's important to amplify the Zoom meeting audio somehow so that the students at home, if they know that, they can feel heard, but use good judgment for how you want to implement that. One last thing I wanted to show you on sound is that I figured, since while I'm teaching, I'm gonna be wearing a mask all the time and I'm gonna be wearing a microphone, why not figure out a way to amplify my voice for the students who are in person? So just a little bit of amplification will help, just overcome wearing a mask and hopefully save my voice for longer. So I want to show you quickly how I did that. So the back of this had two outputs, and I just connected those to a couple inputs into our sound system. And in software, I routed only the audio from these receivers, which were inputs 3 and 4, to be output. I don't want to output the microphones for the room to the speakers. We don't need to amplify that. That only needs to go to the Zoom meeting. But the two wireless microphones, those lapel mics, I routed those to the sound system. Okay, this is the software for that Focusrite interface, and I want to show how I amplified just inputs 3 and 4. So in the output routing tab, I just chose hardware inputs and 3 and 4. I don't want to do 3 plus 4 because that'll put 3 on the left channel and 4 on the right channel probably. I want them both on both speakers, so I did it that way. And now it amplifies my voice. Okay, that's it for audio, I think. Let me go ahead and show you what we have set up for video. We'll start with the video out. I have this large outdoor projection screen that I have set up at the back of the room. And I was fortunate enough that we had an old, lecture style projector that was meant for really far away that I put way up there and shines on this projector screen. A more common setup would probably be a small cart in the middle of the room that shines on a projector screen. So let me show you what that might look like. Here's a more normal setup for what this will look like more often probably. I don't have any of these things plugged in together, but just wanted to show you what that might look like. And that's a laptop connected to a projector on a cart, and that's shining onto the projector screen so that your students have a actual physical presence in your class, and they can be seen by other students, but they're at the back of the room, so they're not distracting, but they feel like they're a part of the class. The students in class feel like the students at home are part of the class as well. So that's what probably a more normal setup might kind of look like. The last thing I want to show you is how I have chosen to get video of myself into our Zoom meetings. I have this camcorder set up at the back of the room on a tripod, and it's plugged into power all the time, so I don't have to worry about charging it or anything like that. And I can zoom in and out and have it, even though it's far away from me, have it zoomed in pretty tight on me so that I show up nice and big on the screen to those students at home. I don't want to be zoomed out really far where I look really small and everyone else looks really small. I want them to be able to see me and be able to pay attention. So I zoom it in pretty close, because who knows, they might be joining the Zoom meetings on their phone for all I know. This is a Panasonic camcorder. Pretty much any camcorder will work that is modern and has an HDMI output. These have a USB port to plug into a computer, but that will not work for getting a video feed into your computer, a live video feed. This is more for if you record a video and then move that file onto your computer. It's not really for live video. So we have to use this HDMI output. Okay, the last step in getting this video feed into the computer is to use this HDMI output right here. You have to use the included cable because this is almost always a smaller HDMI port. It's not a normal sized one. So you need to use the included cable and then some adapters to plug in longer cables to it if you need to. If you're using a cart that lives right in the middle of the room, you wouldn't need to extend that HDMI cable. It would reach very well right here. But if you are using a computer at the front of your room maybe, then you will need to use what are called some HDMI couplers to plug in multiple cables together, since they're the same gender on both ends of that cable. Okay, this is the last part of getting the video into our meeting, is that you need to use, if you use a camcorder, some sort of device to take an HDMI input and encode it so it can be read over USB. So I'll link this one. This is a cheap one, some unbranded thing that I got on Amazon, but I'll leave a couple links to some that work really well without any extra work. You just plug them in and they work. And Zoom will see this guy as a webcam, so it will show up really easily. So I'm currently standing on the podium in middle of our rehearsal space, and this is what it looks like for me. I've got 13 students on that side, 13 students there, and then several that are on the screen there. I set up the camera so that it's in the way of the screen on purpose, so that when I'm looking at that screen and looking at the students at home, to them it looks like I'm looking them in the eye, because I am. So that's a good setup, even though it looks kind of strange with it being right in the way. Okay, let's go ahead and start one of these Zoom meetings and see what that looks like. Okay, so we've got the Scarlett 18i8 USB. That is our audio interface name, and that the Zoom thinks it's a microphone, even though it's got 4 microphones plugged into it. It's that audio interface. And then for our speaker, I just have that built-in output, the headphone jack, running to our sound system. Okay. For the camera, you'll see the name of whatever your capture device is, not the name of the camcorder. So that's what you'll see there. So make sure that's selected. And that's what that looks like. So this is what the students would see at home. And this has worked really well for us so far. The students in rehearsals follow along with what we're doing in class, just like if they were in person, and they rehearse right along with us, and they stay on mute but they can still hear us and we can see them, of course. The only thing is we can't hear them in that case because the delay would be too significant. But it's important to remember that the students that are at home following along, they experience it in real time. So they're playing right along like it's in real time. If they ask a question, they could raise their hand on the screen. You could train them to do that. And they could ask a question and say the question out loud if they wanted to. Or you can have them play something one at a time. If you're having all your students, play a few notes, you could have those students do that and bring them into the class that way. So that's what things look like for our setup here. Hopefully that there are some things that you took away from this that maybe you could use in your own situation. It would be a lot to implement all these things all at once, but maybe that you're thinking, oh, I don't know about that big old projector screen and all that seems like a lot, but I would like to have that camera pointing right at me from the middle of my room. That, hopefully this shows you a way that you can do that. So I hope this was helpful. I'm going to share a list of everything that I talked about here and with some links to those things. And anyway, I hope this was helpful and look forward to answering any questions that you might have.